Hello again and welcome to a special edition of Shardcast. I'll be bringing you some tournament action from the round of 16 of the second Streamers Tournament brought to you by Hex TCG Pro and Hexcasters. Speaking of Hexcasters, I'm going to have Soldak from Hexcasters joining me today, and we'll go ahead and bring him in to give some info about today's match. Soldak, how you doing today?
Hey Aaron, I'm doing great. Hello everybody. I am Soldak from Hexcasters on YouTube. Thrilled to be here for this match and for this opportunity to cast with you, Aaron. It's just really going to be my pleasure, I'm sure.
All right, what can you tell us about the matchup coming up today?
Well, we have a great matchup. JCrawl has been an avid Magic the Gathering player for over 20 years, and he is actually part of the Hex TCG Pro family. At the hextcgpro.com website, you can see articles that JCrawl has written. His stream is terrific. If you're not following JCrawl, you really should go find his site and follow. Now, his opponent in the match today is Hacky Channel. Hacky Channel is one of the most popular streamers that streams Hex. He has over 500 followers. During the day, he's a software engineer for Raptor, so that's pretty cool. And he builds a lot of fun decks, but when it's time to get serious, he builds some of the strongest decks we've seen in the alpha so far.
Excellent, well, that's good to hear. And as far as following the players today, I will have some of their links at the bottom of the page there. After you're done viewing the video, just go ahead and scroll down there and make sure you click on those links and make sure you follow them on Twitter, YouTube, and on Twitch. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get the matchup going on. And it looks like here's the coin flip. And it looks like we'll be taking this from the point of view of Hacky. And Hacky will be on the play first. Soldak, do you want to go ahead and take over for when Hacky's going on? And I'll make sure I lead when JCrawl, or Gentoo in this case, is taking over.
Well, Hacky's playing a flyer deck. He's playing Sapphire Diamond, and what he's trying to do is be real aggressive with you, but he uses kind of the general theme we call evasion. Evasion is where a troop is really difficult to block the damage from. Different ways you see evasion. Obviously, flying is the most common way it comes across. You also see it, though, there are, for example, some blood troops that say they can't be blocked except for by blood or artifact creatures. So those are a couple of examples of where this general overall umbrella arching theme of evasion comes from, but that's what Hacky's going to be trying to do today with this Sapphire Diamond deck. He's going to try to put flyers on the board, make them bigger with the air superiority constant, and then just beat beat JCrawl's head in with those flyers.
Excellent. Well, it looks like JCrawl played a Shards of Fate on turn 1 and produced a Sapphire Threshold as we move on to Hacky's first turn. It looks like he drew himself a shard as well. He now sits with 3 shards. A Air Superiority, 2 Menacing Grolks, a Spiritcliff Cloud Knight, and a Living Totem as he plays a Sapphire Shard for his first turn, and it looks like he'll probably pass turn after that.
Right, I think that JCrawl's deck is a 3-shard deck. It's the only one in the entire top 16 who's playing a 3-shard deck, but that's this is the kind of tournament where they've reached the point in the tournament where they have no room for error. They have to win to move on. This is the top 16 single elimination, so it's really exciting. And of course, Hacky has, as he's just showing us, this great troop, the Living Totem. We'll probably see that next turn, I'd expect, or maybe he starts off with the air superiority.
Looks like JCrawl dropped a Blood Shard for his second turn. And now we know he's playing at least Blood and Sapphire. With that Dwarf champion up there, you're not quite sure what else he's playing other than Sapphire, but it looks like he's playing Blood as well. And you mentioned he's playing a 3rd shard possibly there, Soldak?
Yeah, he is. And we'll see it in a moment, I'm sure, unless he has some kind of difficulty drawing all of his shards. But here comes Hacky. He's going to be dropping his second shard into play. He's got both of his resources he needs. He's Diamond and he has Sapphire, and he has that second Sapphire coming later. So now he has a choice to make. What kind of choice would you make, audience, if you're watching this? He could play out the air superiority or the Living Totem. He's deciding to go with the air superiority. What that's going to do is buff his Living Totem right away when the Living Totem comes into play, and he gives it flying on the next turn. So that's kind of the longer range thinking he has, is he wants to get his flyers into play, and when they come into play, the air superiority is going to make them stronger, maybe making it harder for JCrawl to deal with against perhaps a Ruby deck. That's a really smart choice because you want to make it harder to burn or do any kind of direct damage to the troops to keep them from dying. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And if he does pull a second Diamond Shard instead, he can also drop that Spiritcliff Cloud Knight and will get buffed immediately since it already is a flying creature. Looks like JCrawl plays another Blood Shard and immediately drops a Zentos Inquisitor, which is a 3/1 troop, and the cool thing about that card is when it dies, it actually goes back to your hand and gets the permanent cost of +2. In addition, it's got a socketable feature on it, meaning he can put a socket in there and it gains an additional ability, assuming it meets the threshold. It looks like he put the Flight Gem in there that is a Sapphire Gem, so we got a 3/1 flyer on the board.
Yeah, what a great aerial battle we're about to see with the Sapphire Flight Gem and that Warlock. He's gonna. I mean, JCrawl and Hacky both had the same idea to use the flight mechanic as an evasion tool to bring great troops across the battlefield that can't be blocked. Here comes the Living Totem because again, Hacky, like you mentioned, did not draw the second diamond. So that great Cloud Knight is one of the best cards in Diamond. A lot of people love it. It's called the Pony. It's called the Pawnee even because it just crushes heads with it. It's a trifecta of wonderful, but it didn't come into play because, again, when you play multi-shard decks, you always have to be looking at how your resources are balanced.
Yeah, very much so. He needs that second threshold to be able to play that card. JCrawl's going to start his 4th turn here. Let's see if he keeps hitting his resource drops. And it doesn't appear like he's going to. He's got to make a decision now whether he wants to swing into that Living Totem or not. Well, actually, it's got flying, so he'll be able to evade that totem entirely.
Yeah, that's the great aspect of both of their players' decks is that land non-flying troops are not going to be a huge factor in the game. We're really going to see an aerial war as these great troops battle in the skies. And that's all he did. He did not. Like you mentioned, he did not drop a resource. So in this game, so much skill involved in deck building, so much skill involved in how you play your cards tactically. But honestly, if you don't draw your resources, you don't win. It's just a simple fact of Hex. It's like a lot of paper TCGs. You have to get those resources, and if you don't, you generally don't ever win.
Right. Because especially with the kind of decks that Hacky and JCrawl both playing, they're built off the mid to late game decks. So you need those resources to be able to fuel that to be able to put your big creatures out. And it looks like Hacky drew a flock of seagulls and is contemplating playing that or not to be able to stifle the Inquisitor, but he chooses not to, at least on the first main phase.
Yeah, and it really poses a great question for Hacky right now. Does he want to bring out a blocker, or does he want to pump his Living Totem? The Living Totem, which is a great troop, is a little bit of a resource sink. You have to invest resources in growing it. But if you invest resources in it, and your opponent who's playing Blood could murder it, your opponent who's playing Blood could play Extinction at some point, the more you invest in it against a player who's playing Control, playing Removal, the more likely it is that you're wasting time and losing out on the opportunity to play stronger things. I mean, but look at this great blocker. I mean, JCrawl has to just hate it that Hacky brought this out. I mean, this flock of seagulls does not take damage from other troops. So he can not only block and kill off the Warlock, but now he can kill off the Warlock, and his flock of seagulls will stay in play. And so here comes the murder. We knew it had to happen. I mean, that is why JCrawl is playing in the Blood Shard so that he has this kind of control of the game. He knows right away he has to get rid of the flock of seagulls, and it's going to be responded to with the Stone Skin. So there was enough resources available, I mean, for Hacky to play out the seagulls and protect it with the Stone Skin. Just great play for Hacky, puts him in a huge advantage, gives him card advantage, and now JCrawl's got to be either drawing to another murder or have some other kind of removal to get rid of this flock of seagulls, or else that Warlock is just going to be useless to him.
Right, at this point in time, it looks like Hacky with the air superiority is going to have an upper hand with a lot of the cards in his hand. As you can see, the 2 Menacing Groks and the Cloud Knight, all 3 of them have flight. I mean, they're instantly going to get a +1/+1 buff when it comes in from the first air superiority. If he lands the second one, they will all come in with a +2/+2 and can be a force to be reckoned with. In the meantime, it looks like JCrawl or Gentoo dropped his 4th shard, giving him the ability to put a worker bot out in play if he chooses to. That's his 3rd champion charge. And we'll see if he decides if he can actually get rid of that flock of seagulls. Because the one thing about the flock of seagulls is, as you said, Soldak, it negates any combat damage. But with the air superiority, it now has 1 attack back towards the troop that's attacking it. So that Zentos Inquisitor will actually die if he decides to swing into the flock of seagulls.
Yeah, because that's usually the drawback of the flock, is that it doesn't really do any damage. It's just a wall that just sits there and blocks things. But with the air superiority, what a great combination. What great synergy when you build a diamond sapphire deck like this based around flying. It makes the flock of seagulls so much stronger that it can actually do damage.
So I would expect to see probably the Spiritual Cloud Knight come out next. unless he wants to try to do something with that totem. All of the buffing abilities on the totem require 3 resources, so he has to kind of make a decision if he wants to swing first and buff the totem. If he's not blocked, oh, there's a little glitch there in the feed. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And
It happens.
yes, it does. Yes, we are in alpha in the game as well as our casting career. So as we move forward, we see that Hacky's going to swing the totem into JCrawl. We'll see if he actually takes the bait here and blocks. It would probably be in Hacky's best interest to go ahead and give it flight because it will get the +1/+1 buff immediately as well from the air superiority. Or he can give it Swift Strike if he does block and kill it outright.
That's right. A lot of options here for Hacky. And when you're watching these shoutcasted games yourself, you need to be thinking through how would you use your options? What would you be doing? And then comparing it to what actually happens. This is how players can get better. I mean, deliberate practice. You can be thinking through these choices for yourself and see what you should do. Here, I think obviously the right choice is to give it Swift Strike.
Yes, excellent. That will make sure that the Living Totem's damage actually hits the Inquisitor first before the Inquisitor's damage comes back. So it will be removed from play. And as we've mentioned before, it won't go to the graveyard. Instead, it will go back to JCrawl's hand, but with a +2 permanent cost on it, so it will be a 5-drop now.
Yeah, and it's just really unfortunate for both these players, especially for Hacky, that he hasn't drawn more shards. It shows how good a deck builder he is, though, when he's able to play so many of his troops and be able to get control of the boards as well as he has with only having 3 resources. It shows a really good deck that the recurve on it lets you, even with a few resources, do a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely, because we've seen him have to miss on a couple different resource drops this far, and he doesn't seem to be falling behind. But the Extinction, that's going to set him back a notch. JCrawl has 4 resources to 3 resources. He wipes the board, so with the 1 resource advantage, the 1 health advantage, we almost saw it flip back to JCrawl's advantage here.
Yeah, and it really is why, honestly, JCrawl must have blocked on his last turn, because it was quite obvious that the totem was going to kill the Inquisitor, the Warlock was going to be dead, and he blocked with it anyway. So it really was a kind of a good clue that even if you didn't know it's in JCrawl's hand, that perhaps he was holding something that was going to wipe the board, because now it makes a lot more sense why he would make a block like that. But again, Hacky has a great hand for refilling the board, especially if he gets a second Diamond Sapphire. But here comes the totem again, and it's what we mentioned before about investing resources. All the resources he invested now in the first totem's all gone because it was removed from the game.
Right, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate Hacky's not able to draw that second Diamond resource because he would have loved to be able to put both of those Cloud Knights out back-to-back with an empty board, especially with the air superiority buff. You have to assume that JCrawl is going to put either a smaller troop or at least put that worker bot out in play to at least have a blocker for the Living Totem. Although at that point in time, you have to assume Hacky would give it flight to be able to fly right over top.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this game goes from here.
It looks like JCrawl's going to take a minute to look through his hand. He's got 7 cards in hand, so he's got a lot of different options. Maybe he could be stuck on that second Sapphire shard he hasn't received the threshold for yet.
Yeah, again, it's the danger of playing dual shard decks right now in Hex. There's not a lot of ways to straighten out your recurve. I mean, there's not a lot of resource fixers in the game. There's Shards of Fate, which JCrawl is playing, but that's about it right now.
Well, it looks like JCrawl's going to play Persecute, which isn't a bad play. I'm really surprised to see it played on his turn. Persecute is a quick action, meaning he can play it on either his turn or on Hacky's turn whenever he's got priority. And it gives -3/-3 to the target troop, so that will remove the Living Totem from play. I would have liked to have seen him force Hacky into giving it more of a buff first before removing him from play to get some of the resources out.
Yeah, that's generally considered the better play. One small consideration that JCrawl may have been thinking of in that situation is the fact that Hacky could be running counter magic, and he could have, instead of pumping the totem, just kept attacking with it, waiting for something like that, and then he could have counter magicked the Persecute. At the moment, there was nothing that really would have protected it unless he had some kind of second stone skin, which would have been a really rare, percentage-wise draw.
And that really comes back to knowing what's going on with the metagame. You pointed out that because Hacky's playing a Sapphire deck, that with having 3 shards open or 3 resources open, you can almost be scared to play anything because of that counter magic being a possibility in the hand.
Yeah, it's such a great bluff card. I mean, we know looking at Hacky's hand that he doesn't have a counter
Sure.
magic, but of course JCrawl doesn't know that. So what you saw probably there was you saw JCrawl play around the bluff card of the counter magic. There were he knew when he untapped that he would probably have the resources. I mean, he would. He'd have the resources to play a counter magic if he had it. So he went ahead and persecuted when he knew it couldn't get countered.
Sure. It looks like JCrawl drops his 5th resource, another blood shard, so he's still stuck on 1 sapphire threshold. But now that he has 5 resources, he's able to play the Zentos Inquisitor again. If you recall, when it died last time, Ashley went back to his hand and got a +2 permanent cost, so it's now a 5 drop. So he's out of resources now. But it looks like Hacky can actually put stuff on the board without having a fear of murder right off the bat.
Yeah, and Hacky really is wanting to draw a shard at this point. Any shard will let him get those Groks into play. They'll be +2/+2. A diamond shard, especially, would then give him some choices about playing those Cloud Knights. And then, he drew a great, the bane of the Warlock existence. Here comes that flock of seagulls. I mean, with the 2 constants in play, it comes in as a 2/3 that cannot take damage from troops.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great, what great synergy. What a well-built deck by Hacky, because that Warlock is not going to do anything against that flock, and he could actually start attacking with it now and start whittling down at JCrawl.
Yeah, at this point in time, Hacky looks set up and poised to make a serious attack, assuming he can pull another shard, because all 4 of his cards, he has 2 Groks in his hand and 2 Spiritual Cloud Knights, all 4 have flight. So they will all come in with a +2/+2 buff. So you're talking at 4/5 Menacing Grok, which will actually tap or exhaust JCrawl's troops for a turn and a half. And, oh, it looks like JCrawl's going to put out another Inquisitor, also with the Flying Gem, so this could get interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is now we're about to see a huge aerial war, especially if Hacky draws another shard. I mean, with 4 cards still in JCrawl's hand, there could be even more flyers coming behind it, but the flyers that he does have, you can't get rid of them. They'll just go back to his hand, and if he draws enough resources, he can keep putting them out. So we're about to see a clash in the skies, full of death and destruction. What a great match we have to watch.
Yes, definitely. But you almost have to smell another extinction in the air, because with just the Inquisitors on board, he has really no drawback to wiping the board. So if Hacky plays something here that JCrawl's kind of wary about, JCrawl can just turn around and wipe the board again.
Yeah, I think the second extinction with only 15 cards into the deck would be very fortunate for JCrawl, but we see it happen. It happens quite frequently that in 15 cards you draw 2 when you have 4 of something in his deck. The only thing is, I don't think that JCrawl's playing 4 extinctions. I can check real quick. I have the deck lists. He's actually only playing 3 main deck extinctions, and so I don't expect. I don't expect him. It'd be really unfortunate luck for Hacky if JCrawl was able to only playing 3 of them, pull 2 of them in the first 15 cards. But isn't it a long history of TCGs like we both have? We've seen worse than that happen. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely. But look, Hacky's able to draw a Thunderbird and immediately put it into play because it only costs 2. That's a large card at this stage in the game because it comes out as a 3/3 now instead of a normal 1/1 because of the constants on board, and it has Rage 1. Meaning, as it attacks, it's going to get a +1 to its attack power permanently each time.
Yeah, but now this is where the Warlocks are now great for blockers, because the first time it attacks, he can trade the Thunder Bird for a Warlock, and the Warlock will just go back to his hand. So again, he's got to find a way to get the damage through or make it even tougher.
It looks like JCrawl just played a Charge Bot. It looks like it was one he drew. It wasn't one that came from his Champion Charge Power because it's still lit up, so... Interesting that he has charge bots in his hand.
Charge bot is a troop that you play from your deck. It's gonna give him an extra charge. There must be a kind of a mechanic that he's trying to use with these charge bots and little bots. Maybe he's got a volcano in his deck. I know that John Tata, who won the first Hex Alpha Tournament Streamers, has recently released an article. You can go see it on hextcgpro.com, showing the fact that a volcano with this champion can be well played.
Right, and then just to refresh our viewers' memories, the Volcanon is a artifact that if you exhaust it, it actually deals with 3 damage to target champion.
It does. Yeah, but I think you have to have a robot in play or a dwarf in order to use it.
Okay.
And so that's why they're using it with this champion, and you see these charge bots to help you get those robots you need to use the Volcanon.
Excellent. Well, it looks like Hacky was able to draw a 3rd Menacing Grog, so a 5th shard here would all but make trouble for JCrawl because each of those Menacing Grogs, as I mentioned before, it exhausts each opposing troop. They also can't ready during the next opponent's prep phase, meaning you basically have a turn and a half of unblocked attacking.
Yeah, if he could get another shard at this point, you really have to feel like he's going to win the game, because unless JCrawl has drawn that second extinction, which is very unlikely, then you're going to see a Grok tap everything, and boom, here comes the flyers across the board, and the Thunderbird is going to get pumped. Next turn, here comes another Grok. Here comes all your flyers. Now, he does have a murder to get rid of the flock of seagulls, but he does not know how much death and destruction is on its way if Hacky draws another shard. And all too often in these TCGs that are based on drawing resources, you are left watching a game or playing a game, and you're just left with the feeling of the person who won drew the resources. Not that one deck was better than the other, or it's unfortunate. Some of the other TCGs coming out right now are coming out with different resource systems, so that you gain one resource per turn automatically to take out some of the randomness to make it a little bit more of a skill game. But Hex has chosen to go with the more original version of resource management in TCGs, and it really does add a whole nother level of skill, I think, to deck construction.
Yeah, I think it makes it a lot more interesting too when it comes to creativity. Yes, can it hamper you at one point in time? Sure. But if you look at some of the previous shard casts out there, I had one with Function that he dropped almost 90% of his resource drops in both games. So it's just a matter of how you build the deck and how you draw the cards, because on a basic deck, almost 40% of your deck is going to be shards. There is the second diamond shard that we were waiting on. We'll see how Hacky decides to approach this, if he uses the Groks or uses the Cloud Knights. What do you think,
he's
Soldak?
great options right now, because he could pull the Cloud Knights out now on this turn, and then on the next turn start using his Groks. He could be worried about an extinction, so he's going to go ahead and use the Grok first. It kind of is playing around extinction, and he also doesn't want to take any more damage on the next turn from the Warlocks. So here comes the Grok. It's going to shut down the troops on JCrawl's side. It's going to let the Thunderbird start getting pumped as it does damage. And really, I think at this point, Hacky thinks he can win just by playing 3 Graks in a row. And honestly, I like his chances at this point. I like his chances a lot.
Yeah, especially because you got to think the Thunderbird's going to swing for 4 this time. 5 for next turn if JCrawl can't get a blocker out there. And then the 4 from the original Grok they just played. Mm-hmm. So you're talking, was it 13 damage out of 18?
Yeah, because it'll be a 6 next turn. So you're looking at 15 damage in 2 turns. He's actually only going to have one more turn after this one where he's got to do something, or else this game's going to be over.
Right. I like your idea of playing the Groks out there. You have to hope if you're JCrawl, if you're pulling one of your extinctions. We're talking 2 left out of 43 cards.
And I think he's already played 2 murders too.
Yes, I believe he has.
So that's another example where he doesn't have a lot of removal even left in his deck at this point. And you got to wonder, was he sitting on needing a second Sapphire himself? I mean, maybe if he draws a second Sapphire, he could start playing some dual Sapphire sharded thresholded cards that could really help him.
Sure.
Maybe that's what he's waiting on in his hand.
Yeah, almost a Persecute even helps out here somewhat, because he can get one of those. He can get the Thunderbird off the board, but it doesn't help him with that Grok. So, right. And here comes the murder you were talking about.
Another murder in his hand. Isn't that 3 murders
That's
already?
3 murders in 18 cards.
Wow, I mean, Hacky was fortunate to draw all those Graks, and I think JCrawl was fortunate to draw 3 murders in extinction. What a bloody air war we're seeing, though, as these troops are falling out of the skies. It's just a great aerial display these 2 players are putting on. What a great, exciting match this is.
Yes, I appreciate you for joining me for this, Soldak, and once again, please make sure you check out Hexcasters. It is Soldak's casting site. Make sure you check him out, definitely, and I appreciate you again for joining me on this one.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. It's always better, I feel like, to shoutcast games as in a duo than solo. That's for sure.
Definitely. Oh, he draws a Buccaneer. So this is interesting. I'd like to see him play the Grok here again, just because it allows the Thunderbird to go through. The Buccaneer, I think I would save for in case he may have maybe Urnaz later. Can we see that?
Yeah, and that would be great. But again, he doesn't even need the Grok right now, because he could take 1 round of damage from those guys, most likely. Let's see. What if there's a life siphon? Let's think this through. Could he take 6, 7? Oh, that's dangerous. So,
yeah.
I don't think he can. But the trifecta of awesomeness that is the Cloud Knight. Look at that. I mean, it has steadfast, it has life drain, it's flying. I mean, three great things to have in one troop that only costs 3. I mean, a lot of people are arguing it's the best troop in Diamond, and I'd have a hard time arguing against them.
Yeah, and you have to think if you're JCrawl that you wish he'd held on that murder for one more turn.
Mm.
Just because that Cloud
Yeah.
Knight is so powerful.
Yeah, but he, obviously was doing the math like we were and seeing that he was really only one turn away perhaps from losing,
Sure.
depending on what else Hacky had in his hand. He knew he couldn't wait. He didn't want to get countered. He had to get rid of what he could when there wasn't a counter spell opportunity on the board. But this Cloud Knight, if it's not removed, not at this point, I don't even think it could be removed because he's already played, I think, all 3 of the murders. I think he was main decking. So at this point, with another Grok, we see it in the hand. We kind of suspect that if this game could be about to be over, but he did get his second Sapphire up top. So now's a chance for us to see, was there something he was holding that needed 2 Sapphire?
Well, here's the one thing, at least for JCrawl, because Hacky didn't play the Grok, his troops are now ready, meaning he can use them to block. With them being Inquisitors, he doesn't really lose them. So he can't buy himself another turn to maybe draw that extinction.
Yeah. Of course, we know, looking at Hacky's hand, that another Grok's going to come down.
Sure.
And so unless there's removal, unless there's something that bounces these guys, this game is really, I think it's going to be over. Lethal damage is going to come across on the next turn. If JCrawl was sitting on something like a Life Siphon right now, he probably would have to go ahead and use the Life Siphon just to stay alive another turn. And ideally for really JCrawl's best way to win at this point. Oh, another extinction.
Yes.
Wow.
1 Persecute, 3 Murders, and 2 Extinctions, and 19 cards. If you can't call that a good draw, I don't know what else you call it.
That's great. And honestly, I think it might have been. Have we seen 2 Persecutes already? I don't remember.
I know he persecuted the 1 Living Totem. I don't remember if he pulled a second one or not.
Okay. Either way, it's a lot of removal that JCrawl's had at his disposal, but this is the power of blood. I mean, it's the most commonly played shard right now in the Hex Alpha. In the tournament of streamers that we're seeing this match from, you really see more than half the decks are running blood. And if, and this is the kind of high-level, exciting play that we see in the tournament of streamers. If anyone in the audience who's watching this has not already started tuning in to the tournament of streamers, go to the fan site forums, find the links from the threads about the Tournament Streamers 2, and come watch these matches. These are some of the best players playing some of the best decks you can build in the Hex Alpha right now. So how's he going to recover from this? I mean, Aaron, what's he going to do?
Well, I have to think you got to play the Cloud Knight first, because now, unless JCrawl, he's going to play the one of his Inquisitors back. But if you play the Cloud Knight now, he gets the buffs. He's ready to go next turn.
Mm-hmm.
On your next turn, you can play the Grok, which goes ahead and exhausts any one of his blockers he puts out there. So you have to like this idea of playing the Knight first, followed by the Grok.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm almost wondering if he's could have played a different champion. He's playing the champion. Isn't this the champion that gives flying to a troop?
Yes, it is. It gives flying to the troop for 4 charges, and with most of his troops I've seen being flying creatures, I'm with you on that. I almost would like to see him go with either Dimit or Wyatt, maybe.
The Buccaneer could be made flying. The Totem could be made flying, but you could pay 3 to do that anyway. I would really rather play Wyatt, like you mentioned. Draw an extra card. He could have drawn an extra card right now on this turn. You always want to be looking at ways to grab card advantage, but we haven't seen his whole deck played out. So maybe there's more troops in his deck that don't fly, so that it does help him to play that champ. But we're in alpha. As shoutcasters, we're in alpha. The game designers are obviously, and the programmers and engineers are in alpha, but these players are in alpha. Even these decks they're building, as strong as they look, can still be tweaked, can still be messed around with. So at this point, it looks like he's going to do what? Do you think? Bounce it?
Yeah, I think he's going to bounce and maybe play the Living Totem as well to get some more creatures out there and kind of push the final blow towards JCrawl here.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about this play is it doesn't put... Oh, the counter magic.
Yep.
It got countered. Wow. What a great play by JCrawl. No wonder earlier he was playing around counter magic because he was probably staring at one himself thinking, man, he probably has a counter magic like I do. So the Buccaneer got countered. That's a big blow. He really keeps JCrawl in the game right now. But because he chose to do the Buccaneer, he still has the resources available to come in behind it and do the living totem.
Yeah,
That's terrific.
this would be interesting too. It'll be interesting to see if he swings with the Cloud Knight and baits attack from JCrawl, because he has that repel in hand too. Repel's a 2-drop and destroys attacking creature. So I wouldn't think he'd swing with the Inquisitor into the Steadfasted Cloud Knight, but who knows?
Yeah, I think that the living totem is probably going to get played now. What I would have done different on this turn, and it would have been wrong, but what I would have done is I would have led with the Grack because that would have put lethal damage on the board. Right now, even playing the Buccaneer and the totem, there wouldn't have been lethal damage on the board because even though the Buccaneer would have bounced, that'd be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So maybe there would have been lethal damage, but he's decided to go Buccaneer and Totem, and so I think it's going to work out for him because of the fact that for some reason JCrawl decided not to block. That was surprising. That was 5 damage he just took that he didn't have to take. But the game's really kind of got away from JCrawl at this point, even with the counter magic, because the pony is so powerful. The Cloud Knight has life drain. So look at Hacky's life. Back up to 19 with only 3 cards in JCrawl's hand, with him already gone through these extinctions, gone through all these murders, gone through the persecute, gone through the counter magic. It can't be that many more answers. I mean, what Hacky has done is he has built a super aggressive evasion deck using the flyers, pumping them up with the air superiorities, coming across the board with massive damage, and like a great heavyweight boxer. He's just been throwing punch after punch after punch. JCrawl's been deflecting, taking, trying to, survive this onslaught, but he looks like he's just running out of answers. It looks like there's just too many threats that Hacky can bring to the table.
Definitely, and this is a best-of-3 matchup, so you will see these champions and players sideboard in between games. For those of you following on home, please see the links below this cast here. We will have a link down there for Hex casters. They will be taking care of Game 2. So where Soldak was nice enough to be a guest on my show, I'm going to be guest on his show for Game 2. So please follow along over to Hexcaster to see Game 2 of this matchup as we follow to the end of this one.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what happens with this. Honestly, with these matchups, Hacky looks like in a much stronger position, but that's what's so nice about the reserves. In Hex, that's what we used to call sideboarding, is now called the reserves, and it's 15 cards that these players can go to between the games to try to, tweak their decks to come up with a better answer.
Now, it's interesting that you say that. I don't know if JCrawl hasn't drawn his 3rd shard color or what.
Right,
yeah, to try shard, yeah.
I mean, that probably is his problem right now. We can't see his hand, but he's playing Sapphire, Blood, and Wild, but he hasn't drawn any Wild shards. So it's but then he used his Shards of Fate, didn't he, at the very beginning to get Blood?
Yeah,
so
he had.
Maybe he didn't need it, or maybe he expected to draw into it better and just hasn't. I don't know.
Sure, yeah. At this point in time, unless JCrawl can do some removal here or get another blocker out there, the game's over because he can only mitigate the largest attacker. And with 9 damage on board, 5 from one, 4 from the other, he has to block 2 or destroy one of them. So here you go. You see him digging for cards. He plays the Oracle Song, which allows him to draw 2 cards.
Lucky enough to draw a 3rd Extinction.
That would be ridiculous.
In the deck. That would be amazing. But we know, looking at his hand, because of the Grox, that this game is extremely likely to be over on this next turn. There's I guess maybe with 5 resources, he could play the Time Walk card that gives him another turn.
Yep.
Perhaps he could do that. But with the flyer, he can't make his charge power fly unless he has like the Sapphire R in his hand. So there's not going to be enough blockers this next turn. And with the Grat coming, we know it won't matter if they have blockers or not. They're all going to get tapped. So this looks very unlikely.
Ooh.
He is going to try to hold on for dear life. There's one of those life siphons.
That one helped,
like
though.
He probably helped. It did help. But
it won't.
It won't help because, yeah, he's only got up to 9. I mean, he doesn't know. JCrawl doesn't know that there's a Grok in his hand. He's doing the math like I can chump block one of them, take the other one, stay alive one more turn. We know that the game just ended.
Sure.
With no resources in hand, with no resources available, with the Grok about to hit the table again, this game is going to be over. It's going to tap out the Warlock, and then 9 damage of flyers are going to come across the big bombers. They're going to hit, and this game's going to end right now.
Yep, and Hacky will take the first game of 3. by
And he looks like it's a dominating position too.
Sure.
I mean, it really looks like it's going to be hard to see a way forward for JCrawl. But you know, strange things happen. It's still anybody's match.
Of course.
JCrawl could very well come back and win. But there's the grok. There's the tap. JCrawl probably just put his hands on his head and moaned and groaned like, oh, there's the GG from JCrawl. He knows it's over. There's Hacky's GG. And game 1 of this single elimination match at Hex Alpha Tournament Streamers 2 goes to Hacky.
That was a well-played game by both, though. This was a 30-minute match.
Yeah, it was an exciting 30 minutes. I mean, there was never a moment that wasn't dull. We saw great quick actions getting played, so much threat removal in JCrawl's deck, so many threats in Hacky's deck. And in this game, there were more threats than there were threat removal, even with 2 extinctions being played. So that was a lot of fun. Thanks for letting me jump in here and cast that game.
Oh, not a problem. And again, like I said, if you're tuning in at home, this is the second Streamers Tournament brought to you by HexTCG Pro and Hexcasters. Soldak is my guest for this game 1. Brought to you by Hexcasters again. And at his streaming site and his casting site, we will be going over to Hexcasters for Game 2. So please follow the links at the bottom of the page. I have links to both players, their Twitch channels, to their Twitter accounts if I have them, as well as their YouTube channels. And I have all of the Hexcasters information. So please follow us over to Hexcasters. We'll be doing Game 2 over there. I'll be thanking Soldak for allowing me to kind of impose on his channel over there.
Oh, you're not imposing. I mean, the whole point of the site, the Hexcasters on YouTube site, is to promote terrific professional level shoutcasting of Hex games. That's what you're doing, Aaron. It's been a pleasure to have you. We already uploaded one of your videos before, and it's just a thrill to work with you as we are at the beginning of what I think is going to be a massive digital esport. That's the Hex TCG.
Definitely. And thanks again for everybody for turning in, and please tune in to Hexcasters for Game 2 of JCrawl versus Hacky in this round of 16 of the second Streamers Tournament brought to you by HexTCG Pro and by Hexcasters. For until next time, I'd like to thank you all for joining in.